Hi guys, James at RampantLionReviews again for you today with another beer review. For this one we are going to stick to Sweden, and we're also going to stick to my home county of Skåne here in the very south of the country. For this review we're going to return to a brewery who I've been very impressed with. I first discovered them back in 2017 and they weren't so prolific, but in recent months they have been churning out a lot more beers, and it's been the Pilsners and Lager beers that have really impressed me over the last little while. And for this one we're actually going to have a look at a kind of reimagined version of one of their classic beers, which should be quite exciting. For this review then, we are going to go to Fruitiness, which is just to the south of Hyllie, in the southern part of Malmö, and we're going to have a look at another beer from Hyllie Bryggeri. This particular beer is number 2 in their lab series, which is the kind of quirky, sort of experimental sort of stuff that they're doing, and it's called the Cartwright IPA. It comes in at 8.5% ABV, it's a West Coast style IPA this one, and it's a kind of reimagined version of the original Hyllie Pan, which is their flagship IPA, and that was the very first beer that I tried from these guys back in like 2017. I want to say, something like that, maybe even a little bit earlier than that, but that was a very, or it is, it's still going, it's a very kind of old school West Coast type IPA. It uses the US05 yeast, which was a classic kind of home brewing yeast, and it's got Citra and Simcoe in it, so you know, a very kind of old school, straight shooter West Coast IPA actually. If you get the chance to try that one, I highly recommend that you do, and apparently the new batches of it are even better than the original ones were, so I maybe need to see about getting that one for like a live stream or something, and having a little look at it. I also need to see if I can take one of those with me to the Netherlands and let the Dutch guys try it as well. But yeah, definitely cool to have a kind of reimagined version of that beer, if you like, because that's one that's always kind of stuck with me. I really enjoyed that when I tried it at the time, and it's nice to have a West Coast IPA as well. You know, so many breweries are doing the hazy IPAs. It's nice to have something that's just a little bit different. I do wish these days there was a bit more variety when it comes to IPAs rather than just all New England actually. I wish there was a few more West Coasters and a few more black IPAs and things like that. Incidentally, you will see the Hyllie Labs number 3, the black IPA, reviewed a little bit later on this month as well. But yeah, this beer was released as part of the local Småskalig assortment for August of 2020. I believe it was on the 1st that this one came out, and you will see the other one, and then there's another one coming out in September, which I believe is a Märzen lager, so looking forward to that as well. But yeah, let's see how we get on with this beer then. Very curious to try it. So as always with my reviews, I'll tell you a little bit about the brewery before we taste the beer. If you want to get straight to the tasting, just fast forward. All the usual links are in the description below. That's the brewery website, the link to my other reviews that I've done from Hyllie Bryggeri before, and you will definitely see more added to that in the near future. There's all the usual social media down there too. If you want to see more reviews, do please consider subscribing to the channel. The whole channel has a geography based tagging system, so you can go into the home page and search for beer based on country, city, state, county, province, prefecture, whatever it is that takes your fancy. Do check out the playlists of beers from different countries. There is one there for all the Swedish beers that I've reviewed for you. That's constantly being added to, and as always, please do get in touch and let me know some of the other beers and breweries that you guys would like to see me review. It's always great to hear from you guys that are watching the videos, and the support that you show the channel is hugely appreciated. So anyway, to tell you a little bit about Hyllie Bryggeri then, on to my brewery notes. So Hyllie Bryggeri, as I've told you before, started off as the home brewing experimentations of Michael Nathorst, who is from Vintria, a few minutes to the south of Hyllie in Malmö, which is the kind of southern part of Malmö, here in Skåne in the very south of Sweden. So for a number of years he was a home brewer, and he built up his own brewery in his garage, and this was where he was experimenting and tinkering with lots of different beers along with his friends, and he started brewing there in around 2013. So he worked for a number of years in the plumbing industry, and for a period of time he was working 4 days as a plumber and then 1 day with the brewery. And he's also good friends with Torsten Ekne, who is the original owner of Beerditch in Malmö. And when Beerditch began, Michael decided to turn his garage brewery into a proper company, and so he registered Hyllie Bryggeri officially with the Swedish authorities in 2015. Over the last few years, they've been kind of gradually expanding, building up their clientele and things like that. But these days, Michael is joined at the brewery by Erik Fritiof, who is a partner in the company, but he deals with the sales and marketing side of things. I think he does also take part in the brewing and stuff like that as well. And the beer news articles that we see, he's always kind of involved with the tanks and stuff like that too. But in 2019, this brewery joined forces with Psychopipes and Limhamns Brewery to form a new company that owns a brewery building, and it was there that they were starting to brew their beer. There they had a 1,000 litre brew kit, and this arrangement lasted just for a few months though before they moved out to a farm. in Fintria, because the agreement just really wasn't working for them, and now I think they are trying to kind of gradually scale up again, and we are still seeing the experimental beers coming out. I believe they're using mobile canning to do these actually, but yeah, interesting kind of move for them. So hopefully I can get out to Fintria at some point and film a kind of meet the brewery review with these guys. That would be awesome actually. I think Michael was interested in it, but I think he's a very kind of busy man, so I do need to kind of pin him down and see when we can actually film this. But yeah, as of August 2020, when I'm filming this review for you, these guys have produced around 60 different kinds of beer, and as I say, there's always maybe 1 or 2 new ones coming out every month as part of the Hyllie Labs series. So yeah, really nice brewery this one, and one that I highly recommend that you check out. I'm not sure how widely available their beers are, or even if they are available outside of Sweden yet, but you can order these nationwide through Systembolaget. Probably the best beers I've had from these guys, the ones that I would really recommend you try, would be the Hyllie Pan, the original Hyllie Pan, and the Skånsk Lager is very nice as well, and the Fin Pilsner is also a very good beer. I think it depends what you want from the Pilsner. The Fin Pilsner is a little bit drier, I think, whereas the Skånsk Pilsner, the Skånsk Lager, sorry, is a little bit more kind of malty, I think, and I do like a little bit of malt in the lager. It's the Scottish sweet tooth coming out, so probably I would pick the Skånsk Lager, and from what I understand, that beer will be back as a regular, so check that one out if you get the chance. So yeah, let's have a little look at this beer then and see how we get on. If you want to learn more about this brewery, like I say, check out the brewery website, follow them on Facebook and Instagram to keep up to date with all the latest goings on, and of course you can check out the Rate Beer, Untappd and Beer Advocate pages to learn more about all the different beers that they've done. So yeah, there you can see the artwork on this one. I'm not sure what the inspiration behind the name Cartwright is. It didn't really say actually. You know, I didn't really say what the inspiration behind the name was, but I wonder why they didn't just call it Hyllie Pan or something like that. You know, use the original name Hyllie Pan. It maybe is a little bit more different than the original Hyllie Pan recipe than you might think. It's maybe got a few different malts and things like that in it, because yeah, to go from an IPA to a double IPA, it's not quite as easy as it sounds actually. It's not just a case, you sometimes have to use different yeasts and stuff like this. But yeah, this one should be quite nice. As I say, not sure what the idea behind the name is for this one, but yeah, this is basically a double IPA version of the Hyllie Pan from what I gather. It says on the back here, Cartwright Double IPA is not a standard beer. This double IPA is inspired by our flagship beer Hyllie Pan, and it's packed with fruity hops and a significant bitterness. Hyllie Labs is our experimental division where our love of craft beer is brought to you in small batches. Beers crafted at Hyllie only contain the finest hops and barley, sometimes accompanied with locally grown ingredients from our 17th century farm in the outskirts of Malmö. At Hyllie we want to share our devotion to independence, craftsmanship and quality with the community we strive and work for. So yeah, just like to have a little look at the Hyllie Bryggeri. I'm not sure how well that's going to show up in the light here, but you can see that is the famous water tower next to the, I want to say, is that Emporia, that shopping centre's called? I always forget the name of it, because yeah, it's Hansa that's in the centre of the town, then Emporia that's down at Hyllie. But yeah, that is the famous water tower of Hyllie, actually. So yeah, let's get a closer look at the aroma of this, or let's get a closer look at this beer and get it out and into the glass. Brain is not working in this review. So annoying. But yeah, this one, I believe, I can't remember how much I paid for this, probably about 40 kroners or something, but like I said to you, this one was released as part of the Lokal och Småskaligt for August of 2020. But yeah, very curious to see what this beer has in store for us. We've got about 2/3 of it in the glass just now, so let's see how we do with this one. And I have to say, that looks like a beautiful beer actually. Looks very nice. You can see that this beer is poured with about a 2/3 finger of a frothy, I would say, that's a cream coloured head. It's not perfect white actually, but you can see this beer, the colour, it's a lovely kind of medium yellow, this one. You'll find yellows that are paler than that, you'll find yellows that are richer than this. It's kind of somewhere right in the middle. If I put my fingers behind the glass, you will see there is a degree of haze to this one, but nowhere near as hazy as you're going to find from some of the New England IPAs these days. This one does have a little bit of wheat malt in it, which probably explains the level of haze that this one has. So there's 1 or 2 big bubbles sticking towards the side of the glass with this one, a few little ones going up towards the bottom of the head there, but overall it does look pretty damn nice. It actually, if memory serves me correctly, this one is pretty much the same colour as the original Hyllie Pan as well. So yeah, I think probably knowing Michael, and you know, I've spoken to him 1 or 2 times about just over, you know, Messenger and things like that with his brewing, and he is, you know, he would, I would think he would try to keep the recipe of this one pretty much as close to the original as he could, and obviously just scale it up to make it the double IPA, but there may well be one or two little differences to this one. But yeah, it looks very, very nice, this one, pretty much almost the same in appearance as far as I can remember to the original Hyllie Pan. So yeah, pretty much what you would expect from an IPA, this one, although a little bit hazier, just a little touch hazier than some of the other West Coasters that you might find. But yeah, let's have a look at that aroma then and see how we get on. Ooh, this smells as if it's going to be good. Yeah, this, I'm pretty sure, just going from the aroma here, this is Citra and Simcoe that's in this. I don't think there's anything else in there other than maybe a bittering hop. Yeah. And you can tell this one's had quite a lot of hops put into it after the last half hour as well, because it's got that lovely juicy fruity aroma to it. But at the same time you can smell a good bit of that kind of big floral aromaticity that you'd expect from both of these hops. Citra and Simcoe, of course, are high alpha acid hops. Simcoe, I think, tends to be around 12% alpha acid, whereas Citra's a little bit higher, nearer 14 quite often. But yeah, the fruitiness you get out of this beer is lovely. So yeah, with this beer then, on the malty side of things, we'll start with the malt as we usually do. You can smell a nice little bit of a kind of white bready quality. That's forming the backbone of the beer. That's probably the wheat malt that's giving you that. But yeah, it smells very, very smooth. Towards the back of the nose you can smell it's just a little bit, it smells a little bit stronger in terms of the wheatiness, and I think it has a little bit of that, almost, I hesitate to say corn, but it's almost got a little bit of that kind of corn sweetiness because it's the booziness. The wheat is kind of covering up a little bit of the booziness, so you really get that kind of biscuity, that almost kind of slightly corny, biscuity, but big bready, wheaty sort of thing out of it. I hesitate to say corn because, you know, everyone, a lot of people have an aversion to corn kind of things, but there is just a little bit of that kind of wheaty, boozy aroma coming out of this one. And you quite often get that at 8.5%. You know, you will start to get that in beers that do contain a good bit of wheat. Yeah. So yeah, you can get a little bit of that there. There's a good little bit of a sweet caramel to this one, but it's not as prominent, I think, as it was in the original Hyllie Pan. I think this beer, from memory, this one strikes me as being a good bit more bready and wheaty than the original Hyllie Pan, which I think did lean a little bit more to the caramelly biscuity side of things, although it did have a good bit of breadiness. You have to remember as well the US-05 yeast, that if they are using that or something similar in this one, the other one that's quite popular I think is the Cephal. I think the Cephal is the one that can do the slightly higher alcohol percentages. So yeah, be curious to know what the yeast is. But anyway, those yeasts are quite bready in nature as well, so they will give you a little bit of an almost kind of sweetness when they're covering the boozy character, that sort of corny, wheaty, biscuity sort of thing that I was talking about. So yeah, you can smell this. It's got a lovely bready base to it. There is a bit of sweet caramel in there. You can smell some nice, how do you say, some nice sort of biscuity notes to it, like McVitie's Digestive. It really has a little bit of that, the kind of oil that holds the biscuit together almost, that kind of sweetness. But yeah, the malt base otherwise I think is pretty straight up. Towards the back of the nose, as I say, it's a bit thicker and white bready. There's a little touch of spicy note coming off the wheat as well, but then in the middle of the nose it is more kind of straight up and smooth, bit of sweet caramel, bit of biscuit and things like that. So yeah, it's pretty nice in that regard. I don't think there's anything much more to say about the aroma from the malt base, to be honest with you. But on the hoppy side of things, there's a tiny little bit of earthiness out of this one, but the green side of the hops in this beer, it is mainly quite spicy and floral. Simcoe, of course, you usually associate that with very soft tropical fruits like passion fruit and things, a very soft passion fruit, but Simcoe, if it's used as a bittering hop, which I think it might be a little bit here, it really gives you a hell of a lot of spice, and you can pick that up in this beer kind of straight away. But you do get a nice little bit of grassiness out of this one as well. I think the spice, the more you smell of this beer, I think it tends to become a little bit more kind of grassy and smooth, if that makes sense. But on the fruity side of things, again, it's pretty kind of straight up. You've got a nice little bit of a juicy mango from the Citra in this one. You've got a bit of a kind of smoother passion fruity note as well. The passion fruit's a little bit stronger. That's coming from the Simcoe. So really this one strikes me as a very smooth, kind of tropically leaning IPA. This one, it's very, very nice actually. So you get with this one, you also get a little bit of a kind of gooseberry-ish note. Sometimes Citra can give you a little bit of a kind of gooseberry quality, and I do get a little bit of that gooseberry lychee lightness at the front of the nose with this beer too. So yeah, I mean, It's a very kind of straight up beer, this one, but sometimes simplicity works very, very well, and knowing Hyllie, I think that's probably what they're doing here. They're wanting something that is, you know, just pretty damn straight shooting and straight and solid. So yeah, I think this one is going to be pretty nice. So yeah, if you know the Hyllie pan, this one is quite similar in a lot of ways in terms of the aroma, just a bit, obviously a bit more kind of malty and boozy in the malt actually. So yeah, let's have a look at the flavour of this one then. Actually, I'm very, very curious about this beer. So this one is the Cartwright Double IPA, coming in at 8.5% ABV from Hyllie Bryggeri, now based in Fintria, to the south of Hyllie, in near Malmö here in Skåne in the south of Sweden. Let's get stuck in. Slanche, skål. Ooh, that's really nice actually. Yeah, something definitely a bit old school about this. And I can tell you something, you can feel the bitterness on this beer building the more you drink of it. But yeah, this one, it's got a nice, this has a nice West Coast hit to it. I have to say, when I get the chance to try West Coast beers, West Coast IPAs, it is just really like a nice feeling, nostalgia. You just feel a nice warmth through the body from it, because it's you know, it's a nice memory. I always enjoyed a good West Coast IPA, and again, this is solid. So thumbs up to Hyllie Bryggeri once again. I mean, if you know, if you know the Hyllie pan, I keep referring back to this beer. I probably shouldn't. I should probably consider this more as a beer in its own right. So maybe this isn't my best review, but hey ho, it is what it is. This one. It really is just like a slightly boozier version of that original Hyllie pan, actually. Strikes me as a bit more bready though, that's the other thing. It is I think this one is definitely a bit more bready, but that would make sense again because of the alcohol percentage of this one. More malt, more alcohol basically. But yeah, it is really nice. Like I said to you, this one is a very straight shooter. Definitely not the most kind of complex of West Coast IPAs that you're going to come across, but it does what it does very well. It's a really well crafted beer, this, and that's kind of what I've come to expect from Hyllie Bryggeri as well. I'd love to see these guys do a few more different styles and things, and I think that's the idea with the you know, with the Lab series. They've got the Cascadian Dark, as they're calling it, the black IPA. That's the first time I'll have had one of these beers from them actually, so it'd be cool to see them do things like, you know, these guys are very capable in the lager side of things. I'd love to see them do like a Schwarzbier and a Dunkel and a Doppelbock, and you know, it'd be cool to see these guys play around with different styles actually, because you know, Michael is a very, very capable brewer. Going by the beers, the Skånsk Lager I think is genuinely one of the best pilsners that I've come across in quite a while actually. I really, really like that one, and the Fiend Pilsner is very good as well, but yeah, as I say, the Skånsk Lager for me just edges it I think. But yeah, this one I think is very, very nice. So again, thumbs up to Hyllie Bryggeri here. So yeah, let's break this down then. I mean, this one, it is kind of what you'd expect from the aroma. Straight away, across the middle of the palate, you get that nice white bready wheaty quality. That just blankets the middle of your tongue. Towards the back third of your palate, the breadiness gets a little bit kind of thicker. You can really feel it thickening up a little bit. As you move further forward on this one, it gets a little bit more kind of pale malty, which is quite nice. You do feel it being a little bit lighter, and you get a nice wee bit of a kind of, you do get a good bit of an island in the middle of this one. There's an island in the middle of your tongue there that has a little bit of that more kind of biscuity, caramelly type vibe coming out of it, and I really like that about this one. In the very centre of your tongue it's quite caramelly, but as you move further out from that, it gradually becomes a little bit more biscuity, like a McVitie's digestive biscuit sort of thing. And I like that about this one. But underneath, yeah, it's got a quite nice, smooth but light white bready quality to it. There's maybe around the edge of the tongue, it's maybe got a little bit of a bread crusty kind of note to it. But yeah, it's pretty straight shooting in terms of its how the malt base goes together. Like I say, back third of your palate, the breadiness is a bit thicker, a little touch spicy almost, and yeah, it's just really nice. The wheat malt really, I think, comes out more on the back third of the palate. On the hoppy side of things then, back corners of the tongue there, it's got a really nice little bit of it really has a very nice kind of little touch of earthiness there on the back corners of the palate. But yeah, as you come further forward along the sides of the palate there, it really builds to be more kind of floral and aromatic. You do get a little bit of spice, which, as I say, Simcoe, as I kind of discovered quite recently, can have a bit of spice. I can't, you know, Citra I think can have a good little bit of a spicy character to it as well, both of them. But usually these hops, of course, we don't usually see that side of it because they're added later in the boil. You know, after you add, if you add the hops in the last half hour, it's mainly aroma and flavour that you get out of them, whereas if you use them in the early stage, you will get the kind of bitter elements, and usually a lot of breweries will use something like Columbus or maybe Chinook in the bittering stage, because they're more kind of suited towards that, whereas the Citra, you know, if you've got a big chunk of Citra, you want to kind of save it almost for the dry hopping side of things to get the flavour out of it. So yeah, you don't, I think this one does have a bit of the Citra in the early stage as well. So yeah, just to give you that spicy bitterness, this one does strike me as being quite spicy and bitter, and it does have a good bit of a higher IBU in it compared to what you're going to get from the New Englands. But we'll talk about the mouthfeel later. Round the front curve of the palate, it's a little bit lighter and grassy again. So yeah, on the fruity side of things then, as I always say, fruity part of your palate is that kind of front third of your tongue, where the nice oil of the bubble just rolls out on the front part of the palate there. If you go towards the back of that, it's a little bit passion fruity. As you move, and that's the Simcoe, as you move further forward from it, it does get a little bit more kind of, it does get a wee bit more, it does get a little bit more kind of mango-y. Yeah, it does get a little bit more mango-y. And then as you reach the kind of front tip of the tongue, you might get a little tiny bit of orange out of this, but I'm pretty sure, you know, the hops in this one, sometimes Simcoe can give you a wee kind of orangey vibe if you like, but I don't think so. I'm pretty certain, I'm questioning myself now, I'm wondering, was I right with Citra and Simcoe? I'm pretty sure it's Citra and Simcoe that is in this one. But yeah, as you move towards the front of your palate, you can feel the tropical fruits kind of fade away a little bit, and it starts to get a wee bit more gooseberry and lychee like, but there is almost a tiny little bit of an orangey vibe in there, but very, very minimal. It really is about the tropical fruits, this beer. Then as you reach the front edge of the tongue, it's definitely got a little touch of a kind of zestiness to it as well, which is nice. So yeah, pay attention to that when you try this beer. Yeah, I like how this one, I do like how this one goes together. So big thumbs up from me. This one, I really like how this beer does its thing. So yeah, in terms of the fruitiness, it's quite oily. It really is quite nice in that sense. I think we've kind of covered the different aspects of the fruit that you get there. It does have a wee bit of an almost boozy, jammy sort of thing to it the further you go into the aftertaste as well. The things that linger into the aftertaste with this one, some of the breadiness that's there, a bit of the kind of sweetness in the middle of the palate too, the kind of jamminess of the fruits, and a bit of that kind of floral aromaticity to the beer as well. So yeah, this is really nice actually, a very solid, it's quite a bready leaning West Coast IPA in my mind, but definitely West Coasty. It does almost get bready to the point where you could consider this one a hybrid of, you can consider it a hybrid between West Coast and New England. It does strike me in that sense a little bit as being a little bit in between, but it's still a pretty damn nice beer, I have to say. So yeah, in terms of the mouthfeel then, definitely a mid-bodied beer. Carbonation is very smooth in this one. Yeah, carbonation is very, very smooth. The mouthfeel overall is quite oily, but at the same time it maintains a degree of smoothness. In terms of the bitterness, I think we're talking about 70, maybe 80 IBUs with this one. It is pretty high in terms of its bitterness, and that comes out the more that you drink of this beer, in fairness. Malt base, like I said, is quite smooth. There's a degree of sweetness to it, and it's got a nice bit of an oily, kind of fruity vibe to it as well, this one. So yeah, take a little bit of time and enjoy the aroma, enjoy the flavour of this one. You know, this is a really, really solid beer, and it does, yeah, I think in fairness it does have a wee bit of a New England vibe to it with the breadiness, but it is really very similar. It's just like a more kind of boozy version of the original Hyllie Pan, which is what I think Michael was going for. But yeah, very straight shooting beer, this one, but one of these beers that is just very, very well crafted. So thumbs up to Hyllie Bryggeri for that. But yeah, let's leave it at that for this review then. Once again, thank you for watching my beer reviews. Until the next time, please like, subscribe, share, all the usual YouTube stuff. Pardon me. Oh dear. Let me know your own thoughts on this beer in the comment section below. Let me know what your favourite beers are from Hyllie Bryggeri as well. You will see 2 more reviews from these guys fairly soon, the Cascadian Dark Ale and also the Oktoberfest one that they're bringing out in September. But yeah, thanks again for watching. Check out my social media, check out Hyllie Bryggeri, and have a go at the Cartwright DIPA, particularly if you like the Hyllie Pan. But check out the Hyllie Pan and the Skånsk Lager. Those are probably my two favourite ones, and you can't really go wrong with Fin Pilsner either, in fairness. But yeah, thank you again for watching my reviews, and I will catch you guys very soon. Slange, Skål, make sure you check out Hyllie Bryggeri from Fintry, just to the south of Hyllie in the southern part of Malmö, Skåne, Sweden. Cheers.